Hi, so lovelies. So welcome once again to Diva's Feet. In this video, we're going to be learning how to draft this beautiful corset blouse. Okay, so now let's get on with it. So I've just gone ahead to mark all my lines. The first line is the shoulder line. The second one is the chest line. The third line, the bust point, the under bust, the half length, and now the full length. So the first thing to do is to go ahead and mark your shoulder measurement divided by 2 on the shoulder line and also on the chest line. So with this, I'll go ahead and connect with a straight line. Okay, and this is going to serve as my armhole line. So now after this, the next thing for us to do is for us to mark the shoulder slants, and I'll be coming down by 1.5. So for the width of the neck, I'm going to mark 3 inches. Alright, so you're going to use your straight ruler to connect it from the width of the neck back to the shoulder slants of 1.5. So from this point, you're going to find the middle of this armhole line. Okay, so this is the midpoint, and I'm going to go in by 0.75, just like so. So this time around, I would prefer to use the French curve. At this spot, I'm going to connect this back to the point. So we are going to leave it like this for now. So we are going to go ahead to mark our bust span, that is your nipple to nipple measurement. You are going to divide your nipple to nipple measurement into 2, and you are going to mark on the chest line and also on the full length. So guys, the next thing for us to do is for us to go up from the chest line by 1.5 inches or 1 inch depending on how high you want it to be, but mostly I prefer using 1.5 for all my corset, and it has always been perfect. So at this point, we are going to be marking our under bust tightening. So at this point, I marked 0.75, and I'm going to do the same on the full length. So now I would like to use another marker to connect it. So that's just it. So now the next thing we are going to do is for us to mark 1 inch on the other side, or you can choose to mark the same. But the reason why sometimes we use more tightening at this side is because the bust is fuller at this side than the center front side. Okay, so normally I do not share the under bust tightening equal because of this side is having more, the bust is fuller at this point. Okay, so from the bust point you can drop down by 1 inch or 1.5 or 0.75. Okay, so now with your French curve you are going to connect this like so, making sure that you do not have any pointed edge. You have to make sure that you place the French curve really well. So we have it like so, guys. Okay, so the next thing for us to do is for us to mark our overbust tightening, and we can share 0.5 in between, or sometimes I used to do 0.5 on the center front side and 0.75 on the other side. This is because we still need more tightening at the side than the center front side. Okay, but you can also go ahead to mark 0.5 in between the dot line, that's the red line. Okay, so the next thing for you to do is to determine the depth of your neckline. Okay, so just determine maybe below the chest line on the bust point or below the bust point. So I'm going to mark my placket of 1.5 or 1 inch. This is because this corset is having a button. So we are going to be needing something like 1.5 to 1 inch at the center front. This is because without this you cannot attach the button. Okay, so here now is the depth of my neck, and that is just it. So now I'm going to position the French curve like so from the length of the dart, that's the height of the overbust tightening, and I'm going to connect it to the depth of the neck. Okay, so the next thing for us to do is to create our cup for the center front. So I'm just going to position the French curve really well to make sure that it is giving me a perfect curve at that point, and with this we are successfully created one of the cup. So we are going to head out to create the other part. So now the next thing for us to do is for us to come in from that armhole maybe by 0.5 or 0.75. Most of the times you can actually wait until you have done imputing all your measurements to know how many inch you should give from that point. But 0.5, 0.75 is not too bad from the armhole, okay? But for most busty people, it might even exceed that. So we are going to position this French curve to making sure that the dart legs, they are of the same height, because I do not want to redraft it again. So as you can see, my dart leg, they are of the same height. So now the next thing for us to do is to mark all our round measurements. Okay, so now we are starting from the red line, okay, just the place I pointed. So this over bust tightening we have added, we are going to be adding it to our bust circumference measurement divided by 4, okay. So if you have added 0.5, it means you have to add that 0.5. So on the under bust, we are going to be doing the same. Your under bust circumference measurement divided by 4 plus the under bust tightening we did, you have to return the exact amount you took out at your under bust. Okay, we are going to be doing the same for the waistline and also for the upper hip. Okay, so at the upper hip, I'm going to say my upper hip circumference measurement divided by 4 plus the dart we took at that point. I'm going to add it, and I'll just go ahead and mark it, and that will be it. Okay, sometimes you can just mark all your round measurements, then step by step you can return back all the dart accurately. It's still the same thing. Okay guys, so now at this point I'm not going to use a straight ruler to connect this. Instead I'll be using the French curve because this is the hip side. Okay, so now with the straight ruler I can now go ahead and connect the rest of the point. So now we have successfully done this. So the next thing for us to do now is for us to go ahead and mark the bust dart. Okay, your shoulder to waist for the front and the back is not the same. So if yours is 2 inches, you go ahead and mark. But know that the difference between your shoulder to waist for everybody is not the same. So you have to determine it on yourself after taking your accurate body measurement. Okay, so from this point you can go up by 1.5 or 1 inch to avoid any sharp edge. Okay, so I'll be using the French curve to connect it from that point back to the dart leg. So now we can go ahead to create our armhole, the remaining part, because we have now added our bust circumference measurement divided by 4. Okay, so I'm just going to connect it like so, and that is it. So I'm just going to take this and blend it back to the armhole. This is the easiest method I use in drafting my corset, and it's very accurate and always perfect. Okay, so know that this corset is not having any cinching effect. So if you want to add a cinching effect to yours, you can go ahead and add a cinching effect. But this is just a normal basic corset pattern which does not have any cinching effect at all. Okay, this is just how this style is, and if you want to add yours, then you'd have to know how to add a cinching effect. So I'll not be showing you guys how to add a cinching effect, because this is not what this blouse is all about. So we can now go ahead to draft our back piece, and this is really quick and easy, so you can just go ahead to do it. So we are going in with the measurements. From this point, I'm going to be marking my shoulder measurement divided by 2. Okay, I'm coming in from that point, that is the center back. So know that this is the center back. So from that point, you would have to go ahead and mark the vertical measurement for the back pattern. You know that the front and the back, they are not the same. So, but some of the measurements are always the same, like the chest line will always remain the same for the front and the back piece. Okay, guys? But so lovely soulmate, when we talk about the shoulder to waist for the half length, you know that I added a bust dart soulmate, so I cannot use the same for the front and the back piece because they are not of the same. So now on the hem, they cannot also be the same, because by the time we close the bust dart, we are going to be having the shortage of 2 inches, which will now make the shoulder to waist to the full length for the front and back to become of the same length. Okay, so soulmate, if you do not understand what you are doing here, then you need proper basic bodies, video, so that you can understand how all this works. So for the shoulder slant for the back, I've marked 1 inch. So now go ahead and mark the width of the neck. You know that the front and the back piece will always use the same width of the neck. You are not to change it, soulmate. Okay, so don't forget that the width of the neck will always remain the same. Okay, so I'm going to connect it from the width of that neck back to the shoulder slant. So now after this, I'll go to the chest line, and I'm going to divide my round bust circumference measurement by 4. On the half length, I'll be dividing my round waist circumference measurement by 4 plus 1 inch for the dart intake. So on the upper hip, I'm just going to do the same. Upper hip circumference measurement divided by 4. Alright, so with this, I can now connect the 3 points. So okay, now dear soulmate, so what we are going to do now is that we are going to be talking about the sway back. So I'm going to go in by 0.5, and I'm going to connect it to the neck. This is because our back is not straight at this point. It is kind of deep at the half length for the back. So we are going to be taking out 0.5. Actually, this is not the only method of doing this. There are other several methods you can also achieve this. But for this very tutorial, I'll be using this. So from this point, I'm going to mark the nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2. So with this, I'll just have a straight line and extending this line upward and to the full length, and I'll show you guys the reason why I extended the line like so. So remember that we added 0.5, so, 1 inch, so we're going to mark 0.5 in between the dart leg, okay? So guys, if you take a good look at the dart, you find out that I have extended this dart above the line. This is because I need to tighten that point and also at the hem, so that after making the corset, I will not have any loose end at that point. So from the center of the armhole, we are going to go in by 0.5. Okay, we are just trying to create the armhole curve. So dear lovely soulmates, I hope this tutorial is helpful to you, and let me know your thoughts in the comment section. So now I'm going to connect the armhole. That is just what I'm trying to do at this point. So now after this, the next thing we are going to do is to go up from the chest line maybe by 0.75 or so, and drop down by 0.75 as well at the center back, and we are just going to draw the slanted line. Okay, this is going to give it one kind beauty at that point. And with this, we can now just go ahead to close our bust dart and cut out the patterns as everything is set and ready to be tailored. So okay guys, let me know your thoughts on this. Did you enjoy this tutorial? Do you wish to see the sewing aspect of this blouse? Because I'm actually trying to go to the market and get this exact material to make this. See you guys on my next one. Bye.